Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Friar Talk, the Padres daily YouTube channel and bi-weekly podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the Padres playoff chances. And just to go over the Fangraphs numbers first before we get into it, right now, the Padres have according to Fangraphs, they have a 74.8% chance to make the playoffs, a 3.6% chance to win the division, and a 5% chance to win the World Series. So you can kind of take those numbers with a grain of salt, but that's just kind of like based on how Fangraphs evaluates the roster and where they currently are in the standings. That's kind of where they're at. I think that 75% mark, in my opinion, is pretty fair. Right now they have, and we're recording this on Tuesday. So right now, before Tuesday's game, they have a 3.5 lead on the Reds. And then they'll be playing the Marlins tonight. But I'll let you start, Chase. What do you think the Padres playoff chances are right now, finishing up this Marlins series after beating the Diamondbacks 2-1 and then the win on Monday?
I'd say they're pretty high. I'd say like 80 to 85%, just because the rotation has been a lot better as of late. And if they can just continue to go along this trend, we're going to win a lot more games than we would have when they were struggling. Because that June stretch, we had June, July, our team had like highest OPS, but we were losing games just because the starting pitching absolutely took us out of games way too soon, and it was just an upwards hill. And, for like the World Series chances I get, because we are a wild card team, we have to fight upwards. We had that 1-game series, and then you got everything else after that. And then you do have to face teams like the Phillies, who I'm not that concerned with, and the Brewers. The Brewers are probably the team that scares me the most out of everyone in the NL. That 3-headed monster of the pitching staff they got. Urias, for some reason, just likes to play well against the Padres. They got Christian Yelich. Their team is not to be taken lightly. I'm confident against the Dodgers and Giants, but the Brewers do scare me in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Brewers are scary, especially because Yelich hasn't even come into form yet. Adonis is playing at an MVP level. It's kind of slept on, but he's doing really, really well. In terms of the Padres' playoff chances, though, it's just really an unfortunate time to be in the NL West for the Padres. They have the 4th best record in the NL right now, and obviously the Giants, the Cinderella story, I guess you can say. First team to 70 wins. They're playing out of their minds, and nobody expected this, so props to them. The Dodgers, they're doing what we expected, playing some solid baseball. So I still think we have very good chances of making the playoffs. Unfortunately, it'll probably have to be in that play-in game, but it's not out of question for the Padres to go on some crazy win streak and then see them 3-4 games out of first here soon. You saw the Phillies did that. 8-game win streak. Now they're in first. Chase brought up the Phillies. I'm not scared of the Phillies either. Just Wheeler's pretty scary. That's about it. That's a good team. Bryce Harper also playing at an MVP level. So I'm not terrified of the Padres not making the playoffs. I think it's something to think about, especially when you see them lose to teams like the Diamondbacks. That's like, oh man, we're not going to make the playoffs. But also the Padres play up to the level of their competition. So you see that September stretch. A very tough schedule, but like I said, Padres play up to their competition. They're going to play up to that competition, the Giants, the Braves, the Dodgers. So that's going to be an exciting month, and I still do think they'll make the playoffs. This team's too good to not make the playoffs. Starting pitching starting to round into form. Hopefully Paddock comes back soon and starts pitching consistently, and hopefully Weathers rounds back into form the way he was earlier in the year.
Yeah, I think Weathers is, one of those. Weathers and Paddock at the end, like if they can, and they don't have to be perfect. They can have some rough outings, but as long as they provide some strong outings where the Padres are able to win those games, I think you should definitely expect them to make the playoffs. Now, a 3.5 game lead on the Reds isn't anything crazy, but the team beneath them are the Braves and the Mets, and they're 7 and then 7.5 game back from the Padres. So the only team that's really like knocking on the door that's super close is the Reds. As we know, the Padres like next week or so is pretty easy, but it is fair to be concerned of that last month. They played the Giants, 10 times? I think they played the Dodgers in 2 different series. Like they're playing some really good teams. So that's the concerning part. But like you said, Isaac, it seems like when it's time to, play against these high caliber teams, that's when the Padres have played the best. So I think kind of like their recipe to where they can't make the playoffs would be like, if they just hit a really rough stretch against, like at the end of the year against those teams and the Reds continue to play really well. However, I'm not expecting that. I think that they're getting into the point where they're a very healthy team. Lamet's coming back. Daniel Hudson's coming into the bullpen. They're having a lot. They've had now 3 consecutive quality starts. It seems, I think that's the first time this whole season that's been the case. I can't think of another time this whole year where they've had 3 consecutive quality starts. So it does feel like it's coming together. Today they're throwing Craig Stammen, but we've seen that they've been pretty good in the bullpen days. So it's really interesting to see like how it's going to play out in terms of, could they, hit a rough patch right at the end of the year at the worst time? Yes, they absolutely could. But everything that we've seen from the Padres this year, I think it should lead us to believe that that's when they're going to be at their, playing their best baseball. And also the Reds are playing the Pirates like a bunch of times right now. And then at the end of the year, I think their schedule is going to get a little bit more tough than it's been in like the last couple of weeks when they've kind of made this jump. Another thing with the Reds, they have I think it's either the second or the third worst bullpen in the NL. Their bullpen's terrible. If they're playing against good teams, the good teams are going to beat them just because their bullpen has not been good. I mean, we've seen how a lot of these top-end teams, they do great against, poor bullpen pitching. So I think that we should expect the Padres to kind of, get a little bit ahead of the Reds, a little bit more ahead of the Reds. And, in a week, they could be 5, 6, 7 games ahead of them. And this will kind of be dismissed a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It got scary. It was definitely getting a little bit scary with a game and a half out. Like, it was getting a little bit, everyone's a little bit nervous. So that was definitely fair. But I do think the Padres are in a good spot. And they're in a spot where they have to go and play their best baseball at the time where it's most necessary to play your best baseball. So still in a very good spot. I don't know who said it, but one of you guys said like they're just unlucky because they're in the NL West. Like, that's a really unfortunate thing. 4th best record in the NL still. Like, they're going to be all right. But anything you guys want to add? All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. And if you guys are really concerned, that they're not going to make the playoffs or whatever the case is, make sure to comment that. But that is going to do it for today's episode. And we'll be back tomorrow for daily Padres content.